delighted to be here today with Sophie Cook. Sophie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Lovely to be with you.
Lovely to have you with me. As we just discussed beforehand, loving the surroundings.
Well, I'm at my son's college today because it's half term, so I'm picking him up for the week.
Good stuff, good stuff. Listen, let's dive straight in. As a society, where are we on the journey for full acceptance for transgender individuals?
As a society, I think we're doing pretty well. I mean, I originally started to transition back in 2000, and back then, wherever I went, I would be abused on the streets. I would be threatened with physical assault. But because of family things, I didn't actually get to come out for real until 2015, and even then, it was still difficult on the streets. There were times when you'd be walking down the street and be abused. But now, pretty much everywhere I go on the street, people are fine. People are really good. And I mean, considering that my background is working in professional football,
yes.
So I go to football matches all over the country. A couple of years ago, I took my son to watch Millwall versus Leeds, and everyone's going, "Why are you going to Millwall, Leeds?" But I'm there, and like, I'm me, and I'm sat in a posh seat, so I'm wearing a dress, and you know what? No one batted an eyelid. And it's really interesting the way in which on the streets people are really supportive and engaging with trans people nowadays. It just tends to be sort of online that a lot of the nastiness still really exists.
And do you think people are more comfortable to ask questions and discover more, or is it just acceptance and kind of part of society as such?
Well, when I came out back in 2015, I was pretty much the first trans person that most people I met had ever come across, and so there was a lot of discovery around that whole journey. Now there's a lot more familiarity, a lot more awareness, but people are. I mean, the thing is, there's a fine line between people asking questions because they're curious and people asking questions to be voyeuristic.
Right.
And it's interesting because not every trans person wants to be the role model that has to stand up and explain it to every person they meet. I mean, through my work, obviously, I've done a lot of that over the last 7 years, but I think that there's a lot more information out there now than there ever was before. So hopefully people can find the answers that they need. And if they're at an event and I'm there, come up and ask me questions.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about society, we talk a lot about individuals. In terms of the workplaces, companies, I suppose, how are they doing? And what could they be doing more?
I think a lot of the organisations that I get to see are doing really well. Obviously, if I'm engaging with a company, they're already open to trans awareness because otherwise we wouldn't be having that dialogue in the first place. But I know there's still a lot of places where people really struggle. And I think the big thing is that if there's difficulty there, it's either going to come from a lack of education and awareness, or it's going to come from hate.
Right.
Now, hate we can't do much about, but education and awareness is something that we're all working on every single day. And if a company wants to do more about trans awareness, then it's worth talking to someone. It's worth getting someone in to do a bit of training and a bit of awareness building, because it's really important that companies make these moves before somebody comes out. It shouldn't all be left to the first trans person in that organization to be the one that has to stand up and explain everything. And like when I came out in professional football, because I was the first person to do it, the amount of fear and stress that was associated with that, because there was nothing to tell me that this was going to be a safe journey. So everything that an organization can do to spread the message that they are trans inclusive will make a massive difference to people that are already out, and even people that possibly are thinking of coming out but are still too scared to.
Absolutely. One thing you mentioned there was the word hate, and it interests me. I'm kind of sad in society that I kind of felt we as a society, we're so polarised with everything these days that there just seems to be so much more hate. Tell me kind of your story of dealing with hate and how you have navigated it.
Well, I've literally had a love-hate relationship with hate. And the thing is, over the years, especially with the amount of online trolling that any trans person in the public eye will receive, there have been times when I've been taken to a really, really dark place with it. But I mean, I've had a couple of major incidents where sort of I've become like the focus of all the anti-trans hate for a 24-hour period or whatever online. And the way that I'm dealing with it now is a big part of my mental health journey and how I came to terms with the fact that I was struggling with suicide and self-harming. Was I came up with a philosophy for myself, which was, I know that one day I might try to take my own life because I don't know how to stop feeling that way, but it won't be today. And in the meantime, I can do the best that I can to enjoy every single day. And then on the day that I die, in many, many years' time, I'll look back and realize that I didn't get around to doing it. Now, basically, that was me saying, I have no control over when I have these feelings, but I do have control over how I react to them. And that helps me to move on from the mental health demons that had threatened to take my life since I was 12 years old. And recently, I just came to an awareness that actually I'd managed to use that philosophy to conquer my internal demons. So couldn't I apply it to my external ones as well? And at that point, I just decided I have no control over what these people that hate me say about me, but I do have control about how I react to it. And from that moment on, it just really took the power out of their words and allowed me to just look at things in my own way. Because one of the bases that I try and look at the world upon is the idea that all of us are doing the best that we can with the information and the belief systems that we have. Even the people that hate me and abuse me, obviously their belief systems and the information that they have is slightly out of kilter because it means that they feel justified in attacking a total stranger. But the problem is, if we label people by their actions, then it's very difficult to change those behaviors. So I work on the basis that there are no racist people, there are no evil people, there are no homophobic people. There are people that do racist things, say racist things. There are people that do evil things, people that say homophobic things. Because if you label the person by that behavior, then it becomes identity level. And if something's identity level, it's very difficult to engage. Whereas if it's a behavior, so they are people who sometimes say homophobic, racist, transphobic things, rather than being homophobic, transphobic, or racist. And I think that coming into it with that mindset is really important to allow that dialogue to happen. And I think that the only way that we're ever going to overcome the hatred that we've got in our society is by talking to each other sensibly and peacefully without shouting, screaming and name calling, which is so much of what seems to be happening at the moment.
Sophie, on those very, very poignant and thought-provoking words, thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely speaking. And go and make sure your son's okay, as you left it somewhere behind you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Perfect.